It's pretty obvious that Manchester United need attacking signings. They rank 15th in the Premier League for goals scored, with only Southampton having a worse conversion rate in the competition. And whilst the entire team needs to do better, the main job of a centre forward is to put the ball in the back of the net. With less goals than West Ham enforcer Tomas Soucek, Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Hojlund need a bit of help. Liam Delap has been touted as the #1 target, but with most teams in the Premier League looking at the former Derby County Man United need some alternatives. So hello, welcome back, I'm Statman Dave, and today we're going to be looking at 5 strikers that Manchester United should sign as an alternative to Liam Delap. If you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, but anyway, let's get this party started. Diving straight into #1, we've got Jean-Philippe Mateta. If Manchester United want a Premier League player that's already thrived in a 3-4-2-1, they should look no further than the French international. Since Oliver Glasner took charge of Crystal Palace, Mateta has scored the 3rd most non-penalty goals in the competition, with only Haaland and Alexander Isak managing more. A big and imposing centre forward, Mateta occupies both centre backs if he's playing against a back 4. But where he really does well is his movement in behind the defence. He's a really active runner that will constantly make moves into the channels behind both centre backs, looking to get on long balls or passes through midfield from his teammates. But the big thing that I like about Mateta is he's very good at keeping himself onside. He checks his movement and then moves at the right time to get on the end of long balls or passes from teammates. And we saw a great example of this in the 2nd goal of his hat-trick against Aston Villa from last season. Under Oliver Glasner, Crystal Palace line up in a 3-4-2-1, and we can see the system in this move. So we pick up the play with Daniel Munoz carrying into the final third. He then looks back inside to Adam Wharton in space. But just notice what Mateta's doing. He's very much pinning back the centre-backs, which opens up a lovely little pocket of space for Michael Olise in between the lines. Wharton draws a man in, plays a great line-breaking pass, and as Olise has made that touch and made the move, Mateta has spun in behind the defence. What I like about Mateta is how he keeps himself onside in this moment. So instead of Olise playing him through, he takes another touch to work the ball out wide to one of the advanced wing-backs. Mateta holds his run, so he stays onside and finds himself in the penalty area for a tap-in. This type of centre-forward play we don't see enough at Manchester United. Leaning the line, timing his run very well and applying a very, very simple finish. During his time under Oliver Glasner, Mateta has exclusively played with 2 number 10s, something that would be very similar under Amorim at Manchester United. This allows Mateta to be that threat in behind the defence, to occupy the opposition's 2 centre-backs and allow those attacking midfielders more time on the ball. This not only pushes the opposition's defence into deeper positions to make that space even bigger for the number 10s, but it also allows Crystal Palace, but also Manchester United, if Mateta was signed, to play long balls, knowing that Mateta, being 6'3", either is going to win that first ball or cause panic, which means the 2 number 10s can pick up those loose balls to allow Manchester United into the final third. And that combination play between centre forward and 2 number 10s has been great this season. In terms of the Palace trio of Mateta, Eze and Sarr, they've scored around 59% of Palace's goals in all competitions. And that also will help Manchester United. More space for the number 10s, but also a physical target to hit into Mateta, that if he doesn't win that first ball, let's say it's defended by one of the centre-backs, the scraps will be picked up by the 2 number 10s, and we've seen how dangerous Kobbie Mainoo has been in and around the penalty area, getting shots on goal. So let's take a look at that combination play against Aston Villa in their 4-1 win. But what I want you to focus on, though, is Mateta creating for a wing-back. Again, something that will happen in Amorim's 3-4-2-1. So Crystal Palace play long out the back. Sarr punts the ball up to the 6'3" Mateta, who wins a really good flick on. For Manchester United, this doesn't happen enough. The ball just comes back and United concede possession and usually a shot on goal. But what the idea with Mateta would be, use his physicality, get bodies around him like United's system naturally does, to win balls like this. Palace right now have basically created a 3v2 by simply a long ball, the 10 getting the ball back, and then Mateta's got the vision to play this really good pass with his right foot for Tyreek Mitchell to have a 1v1 with the goalkeeper and fire wide. Not as fancy as a signing from Europe, Jean-Philippe Mateta has become a very efficient striker in the Premier League. If you look at his seasons where he's played over 2,000 minutes in league football, he's always overperformed his expected goals. What's more, he's become very effective against the Premier League's Big Six, with 7 goals in 13 games under Oliver Glasner. With his contract expiring at the end of next season, Crystal Palace reportedly want £40 million this summer for their star striker. This isn't a long-term signing, but a signing that would make an immediate impact, given that he's played the United's 3-4-2-1 before and scored goals in the Premier League. On to the second alternative to Liam Delap, and I want to talk about Ollie Watkins. Not only has Ollie Watkins been a consistent scorer in the Premier League since joining in 2020, but Aston Villa have Marcus Rashford on loan, and according to reports, the Villains want to make that deal permanent. So let's take a look at how Ollie Watkins would fit in at Manchester United. Well, first and foremost, Ollie Watkins is very much a complete forward. His improvements under Emery have been ridiculous. One of the big things that Emery worked on with Ollie Watkins is staying more central, spending less time on the flanks and more in the dangerous central area of the pitch. This consequently has made him a better striker. Ollie Watkins is now taking less touches than he has ever in his Premier League career, but he's having more touches in the penalty area, thus having more shots and scoring more goals. In fact, his goal against Crystal Palace in the Premier League this season highlights the change in his movement. So we pick up the play with Morgan Rogers receiving in at number 10. He moves inside, dribbling Will Hughes before carrying and losing possession. But I just want you to notice where Ollie Watkins is right now. He's in the perfect centre forward position, and arguably he's taken the attention of both centre backs. As Crystal Palace win the ball back, it's recycled through Pau Torres, who finds a brilliant pass that breaks the lines. In terms of the position that John McGinn is in now, this is kind of exactly what we get in Amorim's 3-4-2-1, the 2 number 10s and the 2 wing backs. A similar structure that would allow Ollie Watkins to play very similarly does for Villa for Manchester United. But the movement is very good. Ollie Watkins has not been attracted to the ball. He's on the last line, his timing of his run to allow John McGinn to play through is simply sublime. This allows the Aston Villa centre forward to round the goalkeeper and slot home. But the idea that tactically Aston Villa look quite similar to Manchester United in this phase, when they've broken the opposition's midfield, and then the timing and the execution of the finish that Ollie Watkins does, is a reason why the man scores goals at Premier League level. Not a super clinical finisher, Ollie Watkins though relies on his movement to get multiple chances in a game. In fact, no player has missed more big chances in the Premier League this season than Ollie Watkins. Whilst this isn't ideal for Manchester United, a wasteful striker that has multiple chances is much better than a striker that never shoots. What's more, throughout Emery's 2 seasons, Ollie Watkins has actually overperformed his expected goals, and despite taking a similar amount of shots, Ollie Watkins has scored twice as many goals in the Premier League this season as Rasmus Hojlund and Joshua Zirkzee. A creative centre forward, whilst Watkins does like to stay in those central areas, he also will run the channels. This can become very dangerous. If the ball's played in behind the defence, he'll often drag one of the opposition's centre backs with him, but due to his pace, Watkins has got that ability to simply go on the outside of the defender and then create for a teammate into the box. We've seen Watkins do this a lot for Aston Villa. In fact, since Emery joined the football club, only Saka and Mohamed Salah have more assists in the Premier League than Ollie Watkins. And we saw this very thing happen last season against Liverpool. Villa stealing the ball in midfield and quickly bypassing it to John McGinn. In this situation, Liverpool have got a real problem. Watkins has moved out of that central position and is running the channel, 1v1 with a centre-back. John McGinn finds him with a through ball, and from this position, Jarell Quansah has a lot of work to do. Watkins slows himself down, then shows a great burst of acceleration on the outside before getting his head up and finding the perfect pass for Youri Tielemans on the edge of the box to slot home. Swap deals don't really exist with PSR and FFP, but if Manchester United were to sell Marcus Rashford for 40 million to Aston Villa, whilst signing Ollie Watkins for £40 million. That would be incredibly smart business, allowing Manchester United to sign a player in a position that's quite weak, whilst also getting a player with high wages off the books. On to number 3, we have to talk about Victor Osimhen. If Manchester United want a senior goal scorer that will put chances away for fun instantly when he joins, they can't look further than the Nigerian international. In terms of Victor Osimhen, he's been the top scorer in the division in 2 out of his last 3 seasons. You could describe him as a poacher that's heavily reliant on his pace, that struggles against low blocks, but you would be incredibly wrong. Not only has he only scored 2 goals from fast breaks in his last 4 seasons, obviously Salah this year's on 7, but talking about his movement in the penalty area, this is where he is truly elite. At times it appears that he looks a little bit inactive before exploding with a little bit of double movement to create separation from the defender, spinning behind the defence to finish off a move. Osimhen truly is a world-class finisher. But where Osimhen truly shines is when the ball is in the wide areas. He is devastating with his head. In fact, he scored 19 goals in his last 3 seasons at Napoli with his head, with only Harry Kane managing more in Europe with 22. His movement inside the box and aerial threat will be well suited to Amorim's Manchester United. Not only is that aerial threat, but he's very good at getting on cutbacks, something United need to improve, with wing-backs playing to the underlapping number 10 and then cutting the ball back to the penalty area. Again, that ability to create separation and double move, really important for a player like Victor Osimhen in the Premier League to score in Amorim's system. If we go back to the 1-0 defeat to Wolverhampton Wanderers, the 9th game that Ruben Amorim's Man United didn't score a goal, I don't think we can blame Amorim for these chances not being put away. Remember Harry Amase's deep cross against Wolves? But a very similar goal that was scored by Victor Osimhen after Marco Rui put in a very similar ball against Cagliari. Remember Garnacho's low cross that flashed across the box against Wolverhampton Wanderers? Here's a chance that Victor Osimhen had against Eintracht Frankfurt in the Champions League. And finishing things off with Patrick Dorgu's cross whipped into the back post. Here's a pretty much identical chance against Leicester City with Politano doing the same thing, crossing on his left foot to Osimhen to rise and head high against Leicester City. Obviously these are cherry picked, but it highlights the fact that Osimhen's movement, intelligence and physical ability allows him to reach crosses, something that United have struggled to do this season. So what are the buts? Why is this deal not the perfect deal to do for Manchester United? Well, the big thing is wage. The reports are that Osimhen wants between £300,000 and £600,000 per week. Manchester United really need to sort out their wage bill. This is something they've been doing with smart signings and younger players. Signing someone like Victor Osimhen, yes, as a striker makes complete sense. As a player, absolutely. But the wages Man United really need to control at the moment, which would mean that this isn't the perfect deal right now. Next up on the list is a young player I believe has the potential to turn into a Premier League star. Yes, Dave, we've spoken about young strikers before and United have got enough of those, but Samu has the frame, the pace and the power to succeed in the Premier League, as well as scoring 2 goals against Man United in the Europa this season. Samu's game is all about power. His physicality allows him to hold off defenders and ship the ball to his teammates. That being passes through midfield into his feet or direct long balls. This is where he is truly elite. He's won around 52% of his aerial duels in the Portuguese league this season. That is an incredible rate that would allow him to bring players into play or cause enough mayhem around the ball to counter press and then attack. When he does get the ball under control from a long ball, he likes to lay the ball off, and this would be well suited to Amorim's 3-4-2-1 structure, allowing him the time to refine that part of his game. That being said, he has a good awareness and passing range. At times I've seen him receive the ball in the channel, then instantly hit a long switch of play to the other side. That's something that's quite impressive that you see in the games of a Wayne Rooney or a Harry Kane. It is very raw and a little bit inconsistent and infrequent, but it's something to build on that would give him something else in the final third. Like a lot of the generation of new strikers, Samu combines this physicality with good speed and likes to run the channels and often will chase down lost causes to try and get the ball back in the final third, something that's very underrated as a number 9. But the main reason why I think Samu would be good in the Premier League is that he's already dominated Manchester United's defenders this season. His 2 goals were really good and show the variation in his finishing, but also some similar movements. So the first goal coming from a cross, simply getting himself across Matthijs de Ligt and heading the ball home. His second was a little bit more refined, Porto building through the thirds and getting into a good goal scoring position. Samu with a double movement, first attacking the back and then getting ahead of Matthijs de Ligt to find a very powerful finish into the roof of the net. The only concern with this deal, according to reports, is the finances. Porto signed him from Atletico Madrid for around 15 million euros, a bargain for a player with such potential. So what's the catch? Well, Atletico Madrid are very smart in the transfer market and they've inserted a 50% sell-on clause, which means that Porto will probably have to sell Samu for around £60 million to only make 30. So this potentially could cost a lot of money, something that Man United might not have in the summer. And the last alternative to Liam Delap is Patrick Schick. Yes, he's not a household name, but he's a very good goal scorer. We mentioned before Ollie Watkins and non-penalty goals. Patrick Schick is only 9 behind him in the time since Unai Emery took charge at Aston Villa. Patrick Schick is another player that's done well in a 3-4-2-1. These are the ideas that we're starting to build on. United buying players that have played in similar shapes under similar managers to, of course, Ruben Amorim. Of course, Patrick Schick won the Bundesliga title as a bit of a sub-player last season under Xabi Alonso. But this season, he has scored goals for fun in Alonso's 3-4-2-1. Xabi Alonso, in fact, has actually given Patrick Schick more minutes than any other coach in his career, and thus Patrick Schick has scored more goals and got more assists. In terms of his profile, he is a bit of a poacher. He's very much a last-line guy. His size is quite deceptive, a big guy, but he keeps his game very, very simple. If he receives in balls into feet, he'll simply lay the ball off and then get himself into another attacking position. One thing that you'd say about him is he's kind of matured as a goal scorer. Be it finishes open foot, being chipping the keeper, shots from range or headers, Patrick Schick just feels like everything is going right for him right now. And his goal against Eintracht Frankfurt sums him up quite well. Leverkusen turning the ball over deep in their half and instantly looking for Patrick Schick's feet. Instead of taking a lot of touches and slowing the play down, Schick simply takes one touch, turns, plays the ball wide before getting into a goal-scoring position. Leverkusen build through Granit Xhaka around the back and then play wide with Grimaldo spinning in behind the defence. But Schick's position once again is very much in a goal-scoring area. The ball gets played over the top, and what I like about this is Schick doesn't rush. He doesn't rush to the near post or rush to the back post. He attacks the space. This time it's a cutback and he simply fires the ball home. Schick has never been a glamorous striker, not overtly quick or strong. But what he does is he thinks and attacks space really well, and has scored goals throughout his entire career despite missing around 250 games through injuries. Although this season only one injury and he scored a goal every 77 minutes. This is something that Amorim could use from the start or off the bench as an impact sub. This is what you get from mature goal scorers, and we've seen mature goal scorers move recently in Europe's top 5 leagues. Ciro Guirassy joined Borussia Dortmund and scored 13 goals in this season's Champions League, whereas Alexander Saloth has been a massive impact player off the bench for Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid. 13 goals in La Liga. Think of Patrick Schick in a similar light, almost like a 2-year loan, where you're going to get a goal scorer in that's doing it right now that can take the pressure, allowing young players around him to really evolve and grow before probably moving Patrick Schick on after a few years. Getting a player in his prime for around 25 million euros could be a really good bit of business, allowing United to use that cash to strengthen elsewhere. The long and short of it is, there's a reason why Manchester United is so keen on Liam Delap. Either you've got to go abroad and gamble on a young player or an aging forward, or alternatively, you've got to buy someone from a Premier League rival that could cost you you a lot of money. Liam Delap, though, is a power forward, well suited to Amorim's system and is Premier League proven. Someone that's got a relegation clause that will allow United to get a cheaper deal done. Although, we have assessed some good options, and this is the big thing with Manchester United. Reports are that they went into the negotiation with Atalanta for Rasmus Hojlund with no other targets. There are players now on the market that Man United could buy, so there's no excuse to get ripped off in a transfer once again. But anyway, guys, get into the comments below. Which alternative to Liam Delap would you sign, or would you sign them ahead of Liam Delap? I've been Statman Dave. Subscribe if you do, and we'll see you later.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel?